You stepped into shadow and substance, creativity and integrity. You stepped behind the byline.
Welcome to Behind the Byline, a dimension where the journalists matter just as much as the stories they cover. Today, I have a current news staff writer, the legendary Vibe magazine, 1/3 of the Free Think Network, the self-proclaimed writer with influence, an educated woman with 3 degrees, 3, New Jersey's very own Amber Corrine.
That was beautiful. Like,
you know what I'm saying?
Awesome. Thanks for that intro. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. I mean, especially in this era that we're in, I think it's important that we tell the stories of journalists because they're just as important as the people that they cover.
Right.
So, especially like right now where all these companies are getting rid of us at record rates, it feels like.
Yeah.
But particularly for you, in order to know where we're about to go, we got to know where you've been. So, where have you been? Who is Amber Corrine?
Ooh, that's intense. You know what's funny? Like, I always have like this thing where like I'm like, I hate talking about myself and what I've done. Like, you know, when I did it and it was over, you know, moving on. But I mean, I guess it stems back to being an aspiring singer. Like, that's where it starts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So as a kid, you know, I was singing, writing music. Writing has always been a part of me. Like I said, writing music. I was always that kid in school where we would have those picture prompts and I would be so excited to just write a story off of what I saw. Yeah. Just create a story. And then from there, you know, stuck to the music. I was in a whole singing group with my best friends. Okay. We thought we were going to be like the next Destiny's Child. You know, we performed. We were in the studio. Then we get older. You know, I go off to school. Some of them go off to school. We kind of stopped doing that. And then it got to the point where I was behind the pen, you know, like now writing about artists instead of me being the one trying to be an artist. Yeah. And from there I landed a little internship. I don't want to say little, but I landed an internship with Riley Wallace, shout out to him. And it was up from there, like started writing about hip hop, did interviews, got my name out there a little bit. Finally got my, I guess you could say, first big shot with, what was that, Hot 97's The Movement with DJ Drewski. Did some work there, I didn't stay there too long. Yeah. Went to the feature presentation with DJ Sus One. I didn't stay there too long. Was working for SOBs, writing articles for them. Didn't stay there too long. Went to the Griot, Hip Hop DX, Hip Hop since 1987. What else? Had my own blog going on. You know, landed at Vibe, and here I am. You know,
and I love that you brought up you know, your initial interest in hobbies and singing. Yeah. Because I feel like having an interest, having that sort of North Star to sort of guide you as a writer is super important, especially when you want to dive deep and become something like a journalist, right? Especially on the culture. I was reading this article, suitableeducation.uk, and they were talking about when we have interests, our brains tend to work better. And it just sorts of lights up in regards to the things that we love and the things that we don't. Yeah. And we sort of, you know, obviously go towards the places that we love to be at. So with that being said, aside from singing, what are some other hobbies that you have?
I'm a person, like, it's so crazy. I'm really a person that if I have a passion, I have to dabble in it in some kind of way. It doesn't matter what it is.
Oh, facts.
So like singing was always a passion. At one point I wanted to be a choreographer. I don't know why, because I don't even dance like that. It's really weird. I wanted to be a choreographer. I learned how to play the piano just a little bit. I wanted to, you know, further that skill. I like to paint, you know, whenever I have time, but I don't, you know, I ain't no Picasso or nothing, but like I like to paint a little bit. Singing, I still do that just for fun. I know how to style hair. Like, it's so many little things I just know how to do. I like to cook whenever I get the chance to really do it, like things like that. So
and I also noticed that you have interviews with people who dabbled in hair, dabbled in fashion. So how do you think that your hobbies sort of played a part in the different subjects that you decided to cover as a journalist?
Like you said, I feel like, you know, I just feel connected, you know, in that way. And I feel like when you are really writing about something or speaking to someone who is in the same realm of passions as you. Like your work comes out better. Right. I feel like you're more passionate about it. You want to be more thorough about the subject, and that's pretty much what it is. Anything that I've ever felt connected to, I've had better stories about, and that's what it is. Yeah.
And which way do you think maybe your family dynamic played a part in how you cover certain subjects as a journalist, if any at all?
I will say, I know there's one. Anytime I can cover anything about like love and relationships, that definitely, from seeing, I come from a family of women, like it's all women. My father's side, there's more men, but on my mom's side, which I'm more familiar with, nothing but women. I've seen heartbreak, I've seen marriage, I've seen people have babies, all kinds of stuff. So, whenever I do get to talk about like love and relationships, I think from what I've seen, what I've experienced. My aunt was always the fashion side. Like growing up, my aunt was the one blasting Mary J. Blige in the morning, blasting Lauryn Hill on her way to school.
We all have that same
aunt
and mom.
Yeah, like wearing all the Reeboks, the different color Reeboks, the little swishy coats and stuff. That was my aunt. The door knockers. So my passion for fashion and stuff like that came from my aunt. Strictly hip hop, all that came from my aunt.
Yeah.
I grew up the lip liner, like that was my aunt.
Did she have the finger waves too?
She didn't have the finger waves, but she used to wear like the little netted.
Oh yeah, what
you call it? I don't even know what you call it. It's kind of like a netted, koofy looking thing. Like I don't know if I'm saying it right.
She was in it for real.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And I guess in that sort of way. Do you think that you're paying homage to the family that raised you? Whenever you cover and dabble in those areas, do you think that's paying homage to that part of you? Or do you think it's just something that you are also just interested in?
I think it's part homage and part just passion. Because even besides paying homage, like I have people who are rooting for me, and it's like I do this with them in mind.
Yeah.
So of course, everything I do, I'm always thinking about my family and just how am I representing them? Am I making them proud? Am I bringing up parts of their past that they remember?
Yeah.
That's what I try to keep in mind.
And I know you definitely made them proud when you got 3 degrees.
Oh yeah,
that's
of course.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like, so what colleges did you go to?
Okay, so.
And why did we just finish with 3 degrees? Like, why you didn't get 5?
You know what's crazy? Like my college journey is probably much different than the other people.
Yeah.
Right out of high school, I went to William Patterson University in Jersey. I stayed there for a little bit, but I'm not gonna lie, like all throughout my high school years, middle school years, elementary school years, I was that honor roll student, super honor roll student of the month. That was me. My first time away from school, I'm at a school that's known for partying, like literally known for partying. My first 2 semesters, I would say I didn't do as well because I was just like, I'm on my own. Like I could be up till whatever time. Like I'm up 4 o'clock in the morning. We in there singing, making music, stuff like that. And I didn't do too well. And then after a while, I just left. I left that school. I took off for maybe like, I want to say a year. And then I ended up going to a community college. I did that for 8 months. I graduated with my associates in education. And then I transferred to King University, did 2 years there, got my bachelor's in English writing. And then I did another 2 years for my master's in communication studies and media studies and strategic communication.
Wow.
So yeah, that's how we got 3 degrees.
and at no point you was like, yo, this shit ain't for me. I'm out of here. Yeah.
That's like a part of me that I still try to understand. Like, was I trying to do what I felt like I was supposed to do? Was I trying to please, family? Or did I do that because, this is something that I really wanted to do? Like college was great. I met so many different people, had so many different experiences, was, introduced to so many different people who had walks of life, people who have worked in news, done it before. So I was able to hear their experiences. But when you see that tuition and you see like your student loans, you're like, did I have to do all that?
Yeah.
Especially what we do, you don't really need a degree to do it. If I would have known this is what I'd be doing, maybe I would have saved myself some money. But I'm happy. I'm happy that I did, go through with it.
And you previously mentioned that you were a teacher at one point.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that too. Yeah. Yeah.
So how was your time as an educator? I mean, I know it had to be, sort of challenging, and the perspective had to be sort of rarefied air for you being a Black woman and coming from the family that you did.
Education was great. Let me start by saying kids were great. Like I loved being around the kids. I had an opportunity to work with almost every grade. Even when I was a substitute teacher, I was like subbing in high school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was great just to be around the kids, bring my creativity, because I'm already a creative person. So like when I would create lesson plans, I'm thinking of like, what are creative ways that we can get the kids to like learn, whether it's through music, dance, whatever. That part was fun. But trying to juggle being a teacher, which is a very demanding job. Like you're not just a teacher. I was the social worker. I was the nurse. I was the, the therapist. I was all of that for the kids. So it's like, it's not just a linear job, but just trying to juggle that and my media stuff and going to school at the same time. It was a lot. My mom always says like, I don't know how you did that. Like, I don't know how, but
that sounds crazy.
I've just always had that type of personality. It's like, if I start something, I gotta do it. Like I just have to see it through.
Yeah. So I'm guessing all of those stressors sort of played a part in that transformation from teacher to journalist.
Yeah.
So walk me through that. Like, I know, you said your mom chimed in like, girl, I don't know how you did that.
Yeah.
So explain to us how you did that.
You know what? I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I should have been fired a long time ago as a teacher. Like, not because I was a great teacher. I was a great teacher, but on my off, like whenever I would have a break, whenever the kids are asleep, I'm over here editing work. Like I'm over here on Canva creating graphics for like my media stuff, going through email, seeing which events I could go to. So like my passion was with education, but I also had an equal passion with media. And I think after a while, you can probably tell like, I don't know how long this person's going to be here because their mind is somewhere else.
Yeah.
So when I did get that opportunity, like every year I would tell myself, this is the last summer that I'm working as a teacher. Like September come, I'm not going to be in a classroom. Like I'm going to be doing something bigger.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, cause it's so crazy. Like I remember one year I thought this was going to be like the year I was done teaching. I had got an interview with my dream company. I wanted to work at Viacom so bad. And I don't know how many times I applied to them and I just got denied.
Yeah.
This one time, they said, oh, you're going to have an interview. I did like 4 rounds of interviews with them. Jesus. Never heard nothing. And I was so upset because I'm like, I'm telling my mom, like, yeah, I think I'm about to work at Viacom. This has to be a sign. Like, they've denied me so many times and here I am, with an interview. It didn't happen. So went back to teaching, like I'm happy with the kids, but I'm low key depressed. Like
there's something else that I need to be doing. Yeah.
And then, I got the call with Vibe to interview and I was like, yo, this might really be like my leap of faith that I've been waiting for. And I was able to take care of myself so I could leave. Like I don't have to worry about money. So, when it was time, I put in my 2 weeks. I was like, I'm out of here, and I'm not going to lie. It was very bittersweet. Because like that's all I've known is education, and now being able to do this like 100% and not have to worry, I was like, okay, I'm here.
And not to sort of dampen that beautiful Disney moment, because that is a Disney moment.
Yeah.
But as life goes, a lot of ups, a lot of downs.
Yeah. And
an essay that I sort of read recently from the New Yorker, it was titled, "Is the media prepared for an extinction level event?" Now I know Amber at that time was like, yo, I gotta make these dreams come true, leap of faith, we about to do it, baby, we out of here.
Right.
But there's been a lot of layoffs.
Absolutely.
It would be remiss to not talk about that. In February 2024, that's when the article was published, 2,600 jobs, 2681 jobs in particular, were slashed across broadcast, print, and digital news media alone in 2023. Worse even is that 2023 Forbes article, it tracked that media companies as a whole slashed over 20,000 jobs in totality.
That's nuts.
And so in this year, we've already seen Pitchfork lay off people. We've already seen the Los Angeles Times lay off people. Sports Illustrated, Wall Street. Like, we can keep going on and on and on. So as a writer, somebody who has finally began walking in their passion, walking in, their sort of destined path that they feel as a human being, how does this make you feel?
It's a scary landscape right now. Because like I said, so many of us have waited for opportunities like this.
Word.
You grow up, like I think of myself, I grew up, I would go shopping with my mom in the supermarket. And when it's time to check out, I'm looking at all the magazines, and I was a Word Up girl. I used to always have all the Word Up magazines, and like I'd be like, Mom, can you get me this? Because I just love the content, like how versatile it was. And it's like now to be here, and sometimes I really gotta pinch myself. I'm like, I have my days when I'm like, I don't feel like doing this, but I'm here. Like, I'm at Vibe. That's
right.
crazy.
Like, legendary
that's crazy.
Vibe magazine.
So it's like, it's just sad to think that the dream can just be taken like that. Because now we're moving into a space of where it's cheaper to not have humans doing the work,
right.
With AI and whatnot. But I feel like you can't replace humanistic approach. You can't replace people's experiences. You cannot put a robot to create that.
No.
So it's scary, but that's why I try to make sure that I have other tools in my belt. If that ever happens, like, hopefully I can pivot somewhere else. As of right now, I have faith that that's not going to happen to me. But if it does, I'm just going to do what I got to do and get back out there.
Has it ever crossed your mind to be like, yo, maybe I should start searching elsewhere, like into different industries where I could sort of like dip my toes in? Because it seems like this ship is sinking.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be crazy not to do that, because you can't put all your eggs in one basket either. Because just as much as like, people are laying people off, like, my job tomorrow, they can be like, oh, we don't need you no more. What am I going to do?
Right.
Like, they're still going to thrive. What am I going to do? So it's always good to have like a backup plan, or at least like know where you could go if something doesn't work out.
And because tomorrow isn't, promised for you or anybody that's a writer, journalist, reporter, what do you hope to accomplish as a writer then that will leave a legacy behind for you, to where people, maybe the industry restores itself and they realize, hey, robots can't feel the way this writer can feel from New Jersey. So what is it that you want to accomplish as a writer?
I just want to have stories that are gonna be referred to years later. Those cover stories, I haven't had a cover story yet. Like, I'm still waiting, but hopefully to have those cover stories where people just always go back. Like, I can see myself like being on one of those shows just talking about something I wrote about. Like they're doing a whole, not even a biopic, like a behind the music kind of thing, and I'm on there talking. Like, I just want to become a powerhouse and just have words out there that are impactful, articles that people will refer to. And I just want people to know me from my work and know that this is who I am and this is how I felt at the time. This is what I said unapologetically. Sometimes I think we try to be politically correct. We try to appease people, and we really don't talk about how we truly feel. And I just want to be an authentic writer that's like known for that.
That's beautiful. Come on, man. Come on.
Seriously.
But now that we know who's holding the proverbial pen, I think it's time we go behind the byline.
Okay, let's go behind the byline.
So
let's
we
go.
got the first one, right?
Yeah.
Mulatto hints at official name change and speaks on infamous 5-year foreign line. This was published Hip Hop DX, November 2020. There was a lot going on at that time, especially with, the rapper now known as Latto. But she broke the news to you that year.
Yeah.
And she was changing her name because of a lot of backlash, I believe, or she was considering it.
Yeah, right.
And you were working with Hip Hop DX at the time. How did you manage to score an interview with Latto?
Okay, so that was the first time I had ever, and let me say this before I even get into this, because there was other writers who told me after that,
disclaimer,
that they had spoken to her, but she didn't tell them nothing like that. Like when they asked her about like, are you going, like she didn't give them nothing.
So what did you do different?
I don't know.
First things first.
Yeah.
How did we get to that interview?
Okay, so that was my first time ever. I think this is around pandemic time, right? So everything was virtual. And that was the first time in my life that I got to cover all these huge award shows, like the Oscars, like NAACP, all this stuff I was covering. And I believe that was the Hip Hop Awards, or either BET Awards. I think Hip Hop Awards, if I'm not mistaken. That was my first time doing that virtually. I actually got a whole award for even doing that, so it's crazy. But yeah, that was my first time doing the Hip Hop Awards. So when you're in those type of junkets, you don't know if you're going to get to talk to the celebrities. Like, you don't know. But they kept pulling me. Like, every single person that came up, oh, Hip Hop DX, you up. So I get to talking to her. And, I'm always I try to approach people very warmly.
Yeah.
Try to let them know, like, I want answers from you, but I also want you to feel like you're a human at the end of the day. So I just remember that conversation started off really like light. We were laughing a little bit, like she was cool. And then I just, I was like, it'd be remiss of me if I didn't ask this, because this is what's going on. You're on a show, a national show. Your name is Mulatto. You're mixed. That word has a lot of history to it.
Right.
And I just wanted to know, like, are you considering changing it? And to be honest, it was like, I don't know if I should ask her this, because I don't know how she's going to respond to me. She might be like, mind your business.
So
like,
you were like kind of hesitant.
I was a little hesitant. Okay. I was, but I pride myself on being that type of journalist that pushes the envelope. I like to ask questions that some people probably won't, or they'd probably be too like scared to ask. So I asked her, and she was cool about it. You know, she was like, actually, yeah, I'm thinking about changing it. And then the shit. Can I curse?
Yeah, go ahead, girl.
The article went crazy. That was my first viral interview ever. It went crazy. It was everywhere, literally everywhere. And next thing you know, like maybe like a week or two later, she changed her name. So I like to think that I had something to do with that.
So was this the first time that anything that you covered went viral?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That was my first viral interview.
So how did you initially take that?
It was crazy. Like, I'll never forget. I was asleep. I woke up to like DMs on Instagram. Oh my God, you're in the Shade Room. They're talking about you. I had people literally advocating for me under the Shade Room. Like, y'all need to say her name. Like, she's the one who wrote it. Cause you know how they'll just shout out the publication, but not the writer. So I had people advocating for me for that. And it went crazy.
So did somebody like in particular send it to you? Like, yo, girl, wake up.
I don't remember who it was, but I know it was like another writer. And they sent it to me like, yeah, you're on the Shade Room. And I was just like, okay. But yeah, from there, like, that was a crazy moment. I was just like, yo, I feel like I'm glad that the article that went viral is that one, because it was important. Because not only was, you know, it's about her changing her name, but I actually had some history in there about like why, you know, the name might be offensive to some. So
now, was it odd at first that people were kind of disregarding the byline and just jumping over that, like not even caring the fact or the historical context that a black woman was covering a story about another black woman that has something to do with a racially insensitive name? Like, did that sort of hit you at all in this moment?
Not really. Like, okay, my thing is, as a black woman, the last thing I wanted to do was offend her. Like, the last thing I wanted to do was to make her feel like, you know, I'm trying to have you in a negative light,
right?
Because that wasn't the goal. The goal was to just ask about the name, because this is what the people want to know. This is our jobs. Like, we're put in this position to talk to people that most people won't get to talk to. So we want to know what the people want to know. You know, so yeah, I had to ask it, and I didn't think I didn't want her to feel like I was trying to, you know, offend her or like make her out to be this negative person. But you know, people are going to paint the picture how they want to paint it.
Yeah. And so what did it feel like to sort of see all these people aggregating your story, going back to like the Hip Hop DX interview to make up new news stories, or I mean, we know how the game goes, even make salacious rumors and stuff like that. So how did that feel?
It felt good. I think as any writer, you know, we don't get championship rings. Like, we get things like people putting us in their article, mentioning our names. We get cover stories. We get, you know, things like that. So for me, that was like my first moment of like validation a little bit, saying like, oh, okay, what I'm saying is important. And what I'm saying makes other people want to talk about it. And it's not that it's just like clickbaity. It's actually a real thing that people feel some way about. You know, so I was proud of myself. Like, I was happy.
Would you say you were validated from the virality?
I think I felt a sort of validation that, okay, what I was saying was good enough for people to cover. You know, we write stories all day, but not everything gets picked up. Not everything things that we feel people should be talking about, sometimes they don't. So for that story, you know, I felt like it was important to me. I asked the question because I knew like it was a good question. So for other people to receive it the same way, yeah, I felt a little bit of a validation.
Now,
you know,
looking back at that moment, was there another question that you had prepared just in case she wasn't ready to answer that question?
To be honest, I don't even remember. Like, I don't remember if I did. I know I went in there. I had tunnel vision. Like, I knew exactly what I wanted out of that.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I had tunnel vision. So I don't think it was anything. I don't think I left anything on the table.
Wow.
Like, because I already know, like, in those type of junkets, you only get maybe 5 minutes. So I was like, you know what? I need to go in for what I need and not like, you know, play around. So
I mean, you also went viral recently. I think it was last year when you had an interview with Steph Curry. And you asked him about Sexy Red. Now, in comparison to both of those viral moments, what was different about, you know, the Latto thing versus the Sexy Red moment? Because I remember you talking about like, yo, this is y'all wildin'. So what was the pure difference between both of those viral moments?
I think the difference was, one was more so what people were concerned about. Like, people kind of maybe was wondering the same thing. And then with the Steph Curry, I think people just felt like it was more clickbaity. Like I think people felt like, okay, she's just looking for a moment, you know, and it wasn't that. It was
not realizing you already had.
Yeah, like it wasn't that. Like me and him spent, I want to say a good 10-15 minutes on you know, on Zoom. We talked about a lot, and that was my last question for him. Like, you know, because I like to, whatever I feel like doesn't really have to do with the subject matter, I try to save that for them, because this is something like at the end of the day, we can't, even if you're not a fan of Sexy Red, if you're not a fan of her music, there's an audience out there that is, you know, and I'm a voice for the people. Yeah. So I'm going to ask what the people want to know. At the end of the day, it is very true that his name has been put in so many songs, and I think people just had an issue because it was a Sexy Red song, and it's like, why would you ask this, you know, this superstar champion player about this woman who a lot of people got a problem with, you know, and that's how I felt. And I didn't care, because at the end of the day, she's human, he's human. What happened? She put his name in a song. People liked the song. He clearly heard the song. Yeah. So it's like, what is the issue?
I mean, he laughed.
And he was like, yeah, of course I heard it. Like, you know, so what's the problem?
So would you do anything different for that moment? Or do you think it's just like, yo, it is what it is. Y'all take it how y'all want it.
It is what it is. And I feel like I'm proud in the moment. I'm glad I had that conversation. You see, that went crazy as well.
Yeah, it did.
It went very crazy, but it's the truth. Like, people want to know that. That's what people want to know. And people want to know what he eat for breakfast. People want to know the simplest things about these people, because they're human at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. And so with both of those moments, what do you think you sort of took from both of those viral moments to sort of better your repertoire as a journalist? And what do you think you sort of can do without, if anything at all?
I don't know. That's a good question. I just learned that people, you know, it doesn't matter as a writer what you feel is good or what you feel is like positive, or like people are going to take whatever you do and make it into whatever they want. Yeah. You know, with the Latto thing, there was a lot of people who were happy about it, and there was people who was like, oh, why is she asking that question? Or like, she can name herself whatever she wants to name herself. With Steph Curry, it's like, why is she asking this prestige man this question about this girl? And then other people are like, oh, well, yeah, like this is what's going on. It's current, it's relevant. Right. Why not? That's one of the biggest songs that came out. I think it was like the song of the year for a lot of publications. I personally, like, even if I'm not a big fan of the song, this is what people want to know. I'm in this position to speak for the people, you know?
Perfectly said.
Yeah.
And along with that, you also interviewed a woman named Ayanna Fard.
Yeah.
And this was, I believe, 5 years ago.
Might have been longer than that. I'm not even sure.
5-6 years ago. I think YouTube says 5.
Okay.
She confronted the man who sexually abused and assaulted her. Yeah. For those at home, it's titled, Could You Confront Your Molester? Ayanna Fard did. It's on Amber's YouTube channel.
Yeah.
First of all, props to you for platforming her.
Of course.
Such a strong story. And also props to Ms. Fard. I'm not sure if she'll ever see this, but for being brave enough to share that story and essentially share that with the world.
Right.
I know there was a New Jersey NJ.com article published back in 2018 that also featured that story.
Yes.
So I want to give them some love too. But what was the backstory behind your interview with her? Like, how did you get there and how did you get her? Because it looks like it was like at a junket looking.
No, actually, I'm trying to remember. I wish I would have went back to that email to remember exactly how it got set up. But there was an event going on at this Ashley Stewart's, which is a clothing store, plus size clothing store in Newark. They were doing like a live event, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, either she reached out or either I reached out to talk to her because I knew she was going to be there. Okay. But her story had already been going viral because you know, it's an actual video of her at the funeral, at the repast. Yeah. You know, it's the actual video. So like, I don't want to misquote myself, but I'm not sure if I reached out or she reached out. It happened some kind of way. But I didn't know it was going to be like a whole live audience. I didn't know it was going to be that. You know, I'm thinking it's just going to be me and her, like, sitting down.
And
I didn't know.
Still was like, let's do it.
Because, you know, sometimes we go to events and, like, you talking to them off in the corner somewhere, like, recording. I didn't know it was going to be like a whole thing. So, you know, that was a very touchy thing. Like, you know, like, a lot of people were emotional.
Wow.
So I just knew
at the event.
Yeah. Wow. I just knew that, like, this was something that I wanted to talk to her about. It had already went crazy. Like, I think to myself, like, if that ever happened to me, could I confront someone like that?
Yeah.
And I think about those out there who may still deal with that, who haven't confronted the person in their life. Right. So, you know, it was just all about getting her story out there, inspiring others to maybe tell their stories, and, you know, letting her have an outlet to speak about what she went through.
Wow. And Do you remember exactly how you heard about her story prior to that?
I believe I just saw it on social media. Like the video was going viral.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. And do you think you were emotionally touched? Like, yo, I gotta get in contact with her immediately.
Yeah, because the video was just so crazy to me. Like, it was just so, because at first, you see something like that and you're like, is this a skit? Because you know how like social media is. Yeah. But then no, it was the real deal. And then I'm like, she's right here in New Jersey where I'm at, so why not?
So what exactly would you say motivated you to report on her story?
Just a young Black girl from the hood. This happened to her, and at the time I felt like I had a little bit of leverage because I'm already working with publications, get my name out there. So why not offer my platform to this person to maybe elevate it some more, and like I said, to really just hear what from her side, because people had things to say like, why would you record this man? Like, are you just trying to get clout? Like, let her just tell her story, her side.
That's crazy.
And it's up to the people to decide whatever y'all want to decide.
Exactly. So with that being said, how important do you think it is to make sure stories like that, reporting, like actual factual reporting, stories that people can actually go through, how do you think that is important for someone like you who normally reports on like entertainment? How is it important for you to keep something like that under your belt?
It's highly important. I don't want people to just get drowned in like gossip and entertainment because that's my job. Yeah. That's what I'm paid to do. There's other things that I'm passionate about. There's other things that I care about. There's people in my life who have went through things like that and have shared that with me. So I'm not just doing these things because like, oh, okay, that's going to get them. Like, that's going to get the numbers. Right. Like, no, it's because there's people I know that went through that. Whether if I did or didn't, it's like, it's important. It's just important to me as a woman because a lot of times we don't get those platforms to talk about things like that. A lot of times, like, we just get shut down. We don't get to just vent, and without somebody determining if you're telling the truth or not. Sometimes you just need to vent. And for me, I think that's what it was. I just wanted to help her get her story out.
And did you find people around you feeling personally connected to her story and reaching out to you after seeing you do something like that?
At the time that possibly happened, I don't really remember. But I will say this. I do remember, if I'm not mistaken, after that interview, I put it out, I believe somebody wrote me like on social media. Yeah. And they were just like, yeah, she's lying, and just like it was like, I think it was a guy. I don't remember who. But I know they went on like a whole paragraph just talking about like how she's lying and you giving her this platform and it's not true and all this stuff. So that was crazy.
And you said it was a dude?
I believe it was a dude, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know who. I don't remember.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in what way would you say that story sort of helped your career or maybe didn't help your career? Yeah. Looking back at how you covered it, what you thought and your motivations for covering it. Because in a way, like you said before, when we cover gossip, when we cover salacious news, people tend to look at us like, oh, yeah, you guys are just gossiping and stuff, when we're actual journalists. Yeah. So how do you think covering a story like that, so impactful, so sensitive, in the way that you covered it, maybe impacted your career in a both positive and maybe negative light, if any at all?
I would say it just, that was kind of like the spark, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was the first interview I did under my Backstage Chat outlet platform, which was made for that. It was made to talk to those people who don't get a voice. It was made to talk to the photographers and the videographers and the stylists and the people who don't get the spotlight. That was the purpose of it. So even talking to her, I'm like, she's kind of in a way behind the scenes a little bit, like you went through it, so I want to talk to you about it. I think it just helped me to just know that I can talk about topics like that, and I can do it in a way that makes somebody feel comfortable to open up. It helped me practice like just my skills of what's the word, relating to someone, making them feel comfortable. So yeah, I think it impacted me personally as a journalist, just on covering tough topics, sensitive topics. And like I said, I feel like I'm in this position to help people tell their story. So that was like my first getting my feet wet doing that. That's
fire. And have you done any other interviews with those sort of topics since then?
Actually, when it comes to that, like molestation and stuff like that, no, I haven't.
Yeah. That's pretty, it's pretty heavy.
It's deep. Yeah. It really is deep. Yeah.
So with that being said, we're gonna pivot to something lighter.
Okay.
Because I don't want to end like that.
Yeah.
You did interview the Queen, Mary J. Blige.
Yeah.
It went crazy on Vibes YouTube.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Let me say, hold up.
Go
Let
ahead.
me say this real quick.
Talk your shit. Talk your shit.
Let me just say this. I'm so proud of that interview because...
Girl, we proud of you.
Thank you. Can't nobody take that from me. Like, I went on our YouTube. That was the first time they hit over 20K views in years.
Wait, say the number again.
Over 20. I don't even know where it stands right now.
You know
over 20K views in years. So I'm very proud of myself for that.
And we proud
That's
of you.
going on a resume.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I was going to show this to Vibe, but I don't want to show it to him. I think you're leaving.
I love Vibe.
But talk to me how that interview came about.
I was approached through email by Lifetime. They were doing a junket for her 2 movies, Real Love and Strength of a Woman, which are both based off songs that she did. Everybody knows Real Love, Strength of a Woman. So it was about her 2 films that she had, which are a play off of each other. I was asked to come to a junket, so I wasn't the only journalist there. Like, I wasn't the only one there. But I feel like I had really good questions, really great questions. I didn't want it to feel like I'm just here to, like, we were laughing, we were connecting. I'm telling them about myself too. But that's how it came about. I was approached by Lifetime to do the junket.
At any point, did you feel nervous? Because, I mean, it's Mary J.
Hell
Blige.
yeah. Oh my God. I remember, okay, of course, I'm a fan of Da Vinci. I'm a fan of Adriana. But it's Mary.
It's Mary.
It's Mary in the flesh. Like, like, I walk in and she's sitting, I'm like, oh, like, my heart is beating.
Did you see her aura just like,
yeah.
Oh
yeah.
It's real.
Yeah. Yeah, it's real. Because you never know with Mary. Like, you don't know what you're going to get. We've heard, like, she's like auntie. Like, she's like stern.
And she don't even like that.
And she don't play like that. Exactly. She don't play like that. So it's like, you don't know what you're going to get, but she was like amazing. Lovely. It felt like I was talking to, like, a family member. She was great. Like, absolutely great.
You can be honest. At any point when she was speaking, did you find yourself just kind of like zone out? Like,
yeah, I do that a lot. I do that a lot. But it's like when the camera's on me, like, I know, okay, Amber, you got a job to do, and like I just tap into like journalist mode.
Word.
But like, yeah, of course, there's a part of me like, yo, you really sitting here talking to Mary J. Blige, like she's right here responding to you. But that was crazy. That was really. I still can't believe I did that. And that was my second time. That was my second time talking to her, I believe. Yeah, my second time.
So,
yeah.
So were you using some of that like prior knowledge of her? I
tried, but she didn't remember me. But it's all good. I had talked to her for a power junket.
Okay.
And we played a whole game on there and everything. Like, I had her laughing on there too. And then when I saw her again, I was like, yeah, do you remember me? I interviewed you for Power. She's like, no, I don't really remember. But
it's like, girl, we ain't playing no game.
Exactly.
I know what you're talking about.
She was cool. She was cool.
I love
even
that.
If she didn't remember me.
So how much time did it take for you to formulate your questions for Mary J? Was it sort of difficult to come up with questions, or was it like, not as easy?
No, it was kind of easy because first I watched the movies, both of them, and I loved both of them. So it wasn't like a thing that felt forced.
Yeah.
Like, the movies were actually really good.
Okay.
So from there, I had my own questions in my mind. I'm just like, Mary, she comes from, hip hop, R&B. That's the queen of soul, a queen of R&B soul. So it's like to see her in that producer chair. And also, like I said, these 2 movies are based off for 2 big songs of hers. Right. Real Love, which is, we already know what that's about. So it's like, I was very interested in like, how do you pivot from singer to like now what's coming out through your lyrics? Now you're putting it into script form.
Right.
We're seeing it on TV. So I was just like already interested in that. And then, Mary already has like an interesting story from what she's been through, whether it's like, whether it was drugs back in the day, whether it's her going through divorce, being with people. She's always been very transparent about just trying to find self-love for herself. So I just wanted to know that more so like as a woman too. How do we relate in that aspect? Because we're not always the most confident. And just seeing a woman like that go through that and be who she is today, I feel like anybody would soak up gems from Mary. So it was very easy to come up with questions for that.
And how do you think you related to her answers?
Just being a person who's been in relationships before, have gone through some similar things as her before, and still trying to stick it out with them, still trying to love yourself and not question yourself after you go through things. So I definitely related to that, because even though Mary's telling me about her history, I'm sitting here thinking to myself like, damn, I went through that too. Or like, oh, that's how she handled that. Like, so it was kind of like therapy too. But of course, you know, I wasn't in there spilling like, yeah, well, I went through it too, you know. But just to be able to hear from her, like it was amazing.
And so, what would you say was your game plan as soon as you got that email, as soon as you knew you were going to get some time with Mary? What would you say was your game plan to sort of formulate how you're going to cover it, what questions I could possibly come up with, and how you were going to ask them? Because I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily talk about the how.
Yeah.
When it comes to the questions being asked, they only just cover the questions being asked. But in certain cases, when you look at the how this question is being asked, that can either dictate if they're going to answer it or not.
Yeah.
So how did you formulate your game plan to go in there?
So when it comes to questions, I always try to make my questions where they can be elaborative about it. Because
so not close-ended.
Yeah, like I don't try to do like yes or no questions. I try to do stuff that's gonna make them explain, you know, what I'm asking. So for me, I just knew like I wanted Mary to feel comfortable. I wanted her to open up.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to be like oh yeah, yes, no, it was great. It was like no, I'm like, you know, okay, let's think of your discography. You chose these 2 songs. If you were to make a 3rd film, like what song would you think of? So now she's like, oh my God, that's a good question. Like I don't know. Yeah. And then I have the other cast members like now they're like, oh, I would pick this song from your discography, like you know. So I just wanted her to have fun. I wanted her to really explain herself, elaborate on why she even chose to go with Lifetime to make these movies. Why now? You know, yeah, like just I try to go and make it a conversation, not like an interview. You know, I want us to kind of forget that we're doing an interview.
Yeah.
In a way.
And that usually like disarms them and allows them to just be like, okay, yeah, I can have a conversation. I might even say some things I'm not supposed to say.
Yeah. And it's not, you know what? It's not always like that because, you know, we get very limited time.
Yeah.
So even if you are the best journalist and you like, I know my journalist down, I know I can get somebody talking.
Don't even matter.
Sometimes you don't even get that.
Yeah.
So I was happy that I actually got to sit down and have time to like have a conversation.
So with that interview in your mind, which one would you say sort of best represents what you are and who you are right now as a journalist?
Oh, that's a hard question. Out of all the ones you mentioned, or just in period?
Out of all the ones I mentioned, because it's a you know wide variety of topics you cover with those 3.
Oh, that's a really hard question. That represents me well. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go with the Mary one, just because I like sit down interviews. Like I like for people to be able to see like my body language, their body language. I think that interview gave people a chance to see like, okay, she's sitting across from this huge celebrity, but like, look, they're laughing. Like, you know, it feels very like
they're human.
Like you don't even see that, okay, Amber might be down here on the journalistic, you know, levels and Mary's up here. Like we're here, we're talking. And I think that really represented me well to just show like, okay, it doesn't matter who's in the room. Like I can be myself. I'm the same journalist. I'm gonna talk to you like, you know, if we weren't on camera. I think it just showed that I can conduct myself well. I can ask great questions and not shrink, you know, in a room full of giants.
Yeah. Oh,
you know. Ooh. So that's I say that represented me well. I'm very proud of it.
I love that. And is there anything from that interview that you learned about yourself? Maybe you learned about the business. Maybe you learned about bigger upper echelon stars that you still carry with you today?
It's not even like about being with like these bigger celebrities. Like I just always know to be respectful. Like walk in a room, like you're supposed to be there, because I do suffer from like imposter syndrome sometimes. Like, you know, I think I learned about myself that you can walk in a room confidently. You can you don't have to get nervous. Like you're great. Like believe that you're great. Thanks. You know, and it shows for itself. Like it shows not even just with the views, just like, oh, I'll get from a publicist, oh, those were great questions. That was a great interview. Or like even Mary and them, like that was a great interview. Stuff like that.
Oh, Mary said that?
She probably did. I don't remember though. But I know definitely Da Vinci and Adriana, they were very excited. But yeah, I for me, that's pretty much what it is. Like just walking in and being confident. And I felt like as a journalist, that's what I learned about myself, that I can do it. Like I belong. That's it.
Yeah. And what would you say, you know, with those 3 stories that we covered today, that we talked about, and then looking outward to the media landscape, journalist landscape, where it seems like anybody can pick up a microphone and just say things, and people will take it as facts without any research.
Right.
What would you say, those contrasting things, you covering these 3 topics from passion, people covering things just to go viral, what would you say is currently missing in the media landscape today?
What's missing is passion. Passion is missing. What's the word? Integrity. That's missing. And just people really having a vision of what it is that they want to get out of this story, versus just like, oh, let me exploit this person to get some clicks or whatever. It's like, do you really care about what you're doing? Do you really care about how you're portraying this person's story? Because it's important.
Word.
Sometimes you got to think about yourself. Like if I was in that chair and, I'm giving you parts of my life and you get to put the puzzle together however you want and put that out to the world, like how would I care for my story to come out? Right. And I think that's what's lacking today is people just don't have respect. Like they don't have respect for the culture. They don't have respect for people like you and I who have been dying to be in these positions. Right. The passion is gone. And unfortunately, it's getting to that point where I feel like a lot of journalists who, are seasoned or, came into this for the right reasons, they're going to start changing because they want to fit into the times. And, after a while, I don't know if we're going to see real journalism anymore. It's scary.
And so to make it less scary for the boys and girls or even like teenagers, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds who are like, you know what, maybe I want to go back and get my journalist degree and I want to become a journalist. What would you say to them that allows you to remain hopeful that maybe something can change and they can do exactly what you're doing too to bring about that good change?
I would say make sure that it's something that you really want to do. You see your favorite journalists with favorite celebrities and you think it's all, I just want to go to the parties. I just want to, flick it up with them. But
they be lit though.
Yeah, but it's hard work that goes with this. Like you have to be able to write well. Like you have to be able to know how a story should flow, be able to captivate people with your words. And that's not something that, it's like, it can't really be taught in a way. Like you can be taught the structure of writing, better word choice, but that got to be in you, like the creativity part. So make sure that this is a passion of yours and this is something that you really want to do. I will say nowadays, I don't think, for every journalism job that you need a degree. But I will say if you want to learn the foundations, you want to learn the ethics behind it, journalistic integrity, all that stuff, like, yes, school is great for that. But just make sure like you're practicing your craft every day. Like before I even got into this, I had my own blog. I was writing every day. I wanted to talk about, these are my favorite beauty products that I'm using. When I was an extra for Yeezy, this is what happened. When I was, like just different stuff like that. I just feel like it got to be in you. If you're an aspiring writer, team up with somebody that's doing it and see if they can mentor you. Just learn the ropes a little bit and don't just jump into something because you see everybody else doing it, because we're going to know right away who's for real and who's not.
That's a word. That's a word. And it's any last remarks before we leave this dimension?
I just want to talk to all the journalists out there who are scared of losing their jobs right now, people who have lost their jobs, people who are on the verge of losing their jobs. Just hang in there, stay positive, but just know, make sure you start sharpening your tool kit. Make sure you have other skills that you can tap into, because we're really coming into a landscape where you got to know how to do it all. Like they want you to be able to record videos. Like you need to be on TikTok. You need to be able to, create this and that. Like just make sure that you're sharpening your skills and, don't just be a one-trick pony in a way. Because if you want to move with the times and where we're going, like we got to all, elevate our skills. That's what I will say. But yeah, I'm with y'all. I'm right there with y'all.
We right there with y'all, man. Yeah. And with that, that's about it for me. Thank you so much, Amber.
It's amazing.
I appreciate you, yo.
First episode, too.
Breaking the fourth wall right there.
Yes.
But, yo, man, thank you so much. This has been Behind the Byline. I bid you adieu.